Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Jedi Council Chambers and the Graying Jedi podcast. I am UrzaMaster. Joining me as always, Lord Uther and Jedi Master Psyllium Maas. Gentlemen, welcome. Today we dive into the controversial Acolyte on Disney Plus, and specifically Episode 4, Day. And I am going to be the first to admit that I am very stoked to talk about this episode, despite any bad press you may have heard. And if you're hearing bad press, don't let them decide for you. Let us decide for you, because here at the Graying Jedi podcast, we are the Who Mourns for Adonis of Star Wars fans. Jedi Master Psyllium Maas, let's get some background on Episode 4.
Thank you, Jedi Master, UrzaMaster. Thank you, Jedi Master, Lord Uther. And thanks to everybody who keep the Graying Jedi healthy, hearty, and hale as we navigate all sorts of brand new adventures, hundreds of years before the prequel trilogy uncorked. We have ourselves a police procedural, if the Jedi were police. And this is Episode 4 of the Acolyte. It is day, and I suspect that night is coming. We are directed by Alex Garcia Lopez. He's a writer-director from Buenos Aires, Argentina. You might have seen his work in other genre affairs. He's directed episodes of The Punisher for the John Bernthal reboot that they did in conjunction with Daredevil for Netflix. The Witcher is another show he's done episodes for, and the short-lived but fondly remembered Cowboy Bebop live action. So that's where you know Alex Garcia. Our writers, we had one male and one female working on this week's drafts. Claire Ketchell penned some episodes of Watchmen for HBO, the miniseries reimagination of DC's classic superhero noir. And Cora Donna worked with Claire. He did work on Mr. Robot, and he will also be part of the television spin-off of Dune coming later this year, Dune Prophecy, which explores the lives and secrets of the Bene Gesserit. You might call them witches in the Dune universe. So some nice little corollaries there if you stop to think about it from a certain point of view. Gentlemen, last week we spent the week with Force Witches and Culpable Jedi, ? And two twins who just didn't want to be in the same room with each other anymore. And we left a lot of questions dangling, a lot of threads were pulled. But here we find ourselves back in the present, and we are continuing the investigation into May Anasea and her kill list. She's done 50% of the work. She still has a solitary Wookiee and Jedi Master soul to attain for. And she's accompanied to the planet Kofar with that stumblebum apothecary link to forces darker and sinister, Kimar, played by Manny Jacinto, who gets even more screen time this week with May as we explore those two, hunting the Jedi Wookiee Kaunaka, and Sol and Jeki and Yord and Osha and some other Jedi whose names we don't actually learn off on the investigatory phase. Gentlemen, I loved seeing Ki-Adi Mundi. You'll recognize him from The Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith. He's a little younger. He's a little hardier. He's not, but you kind of wonder, I mean, how long does his Syrian race age? because we're talking a good 150 years when we see him cut down in Order 66. So clearly long lifespans in the High Republic were encouraged, especially from the Jedi. I think this episode's strengths, besides a killer cliffhanger, which I'm sure we'll discuss in detail in a few moments, I think people sometimes, and I mean, I don't think they actually think this, but I think people sometimes believe that the writers just bang this stuff out 5 minutes before it shows up on Disney Plus, and they're like, oh, they're just making it up, and then this is what they made up, and this is what they saw. And judging from some of the chatter that surrounded the series up to this point, you'd be forgiven if you thought that the writing staff literally was just picking plot points or things out of a hat. Oh, let's do this one. I'm here to say that I trust the process. I'm here to say that all of these details, reversals, betrayals, all of these dangling chads, these were all hashed out in the writer's room, over drinks and a keyboard. They know where this is going. We don't. And we get the luxury or the punishment of having it doled out, bit by bit each week. A little tantalizing breadcrumb or two left for us with still more to follow. So this idea that, well, these guys must not know what they're doing, I would take exception to. For those out there who are saying like, this is terrible, this is not Star Wars. I think it very much is, and I think if you pop the hood open and take a look, you'll see in this episode alone, in Day, an extraordinary revelation from these writers and Leslie Headland, the showrunner, as to which mysteries we should be paying attention to and which ones are not really a mystery at all. Gentlemen, is it any secret whom we probably 90% believe this dark agent of darkness, I hesitate to call him a Sith, but the man with the red blade? Do we really have any doubts as to who we think this might be? There's a lot of anecdotal and circumstantial evidence pointing to it. And I don't think the identity of who's under the mask, which, by the way, a terrifying, almost Clive Barker Cenobite from the Hellraiser franchise inspired look. This is not Kylo Ren, and this is not Darth Vader. This is nightmare fuel when you see this thing close up and in its glory. And probably we're going to see even more of its strength and capacities in the next episode. Kalnaka does perish off screen. Looks like he took a lightsaber right to the chest. His fur is still smoking when his body is discovered. We have a pretty good idea who killed him, obviously, the man with the red blade. But it wasn't May. And so up until this point in the series, we believed that May was going after those 4 Jedi who discovered her on Brendok. And she had her own personal agenda. And that agenda was being guided by this dark apprentice master, whomever you want to reach out to. But with the murder of Kalnaka in this episode by this master, suddenly May is not, she's been removed from the board. She's no longer pursuing her own agenda. The master is. And it's he who's been wanting these 4 Jedi dead all along. And if not him, then whoever he's reporting to. So suddenly we have layers upon layers of an onion. They didn't wait for May to fulfill her part of the bargain. She turned it down. She said, I'm going to surrender to the Jedi and be reunited with my sister. And so the Red Blade gets to Kalnaka first, slays him, leaving only Master Soul left. But what is driving him? What is the central mystery there? Even if we know who's under the mask, why do they want these 4 Jedi dead so badly? What what is it? And it's all tied back to the Force Witches of Brendok and our flashback from Destiny, Chapter 3. And that's what I'm saying, is that I'm excited to see how they spin all this together. Because right now, the threads are all across the loam, and we don't know how they stitch together yet. But they have a plan. I firmly believe this. If they don't, I'll be the first to tell you how crushed I am. But there is a plan to bring this all together. But folks, it's no longer May's desire for revenge. We've been pivoted. We've been shown a different point of view. Somehow now the master, or even someone above him, is calling the shots. And I'm very anxious to find out what that all means and how it all resolves. In a cloud of dust, it looks like, because our Jedi heroes were whisked away like turning on a fan at high speed, and just, and that was a very powerful visual to end. And so, gentlemen, how did you feel as day turns to night?
I was excited. It was a thrilling finish to the episode that, I mean, to all intents and purposes, I think was almost as though they wanted to do this in like those chapter arcs, like we saw in the Mandalorian and Ahsoka. Like, you got a couple episode arc, now you're moving into the next arc,
Right.
and there'll probably be some sort of conclusion arc. If they're doing this roughly in thirds, I'm cool with that. I'd be a little disappointed because I feel like there's a lot of mystery that they've built up, and now they're sort of funneling it down to a point that it's like, I don't see where it's going to go, that I'm going to be that blown away by what comes next. What I do like is that despite the fact, like, we all sort of know who's behind the mask, I don't know that we're right. And that's what I like most about this.
Right.
Because I think we all kind of assume it's Kimir, right?
Right.
Like, it's this plucky, comic reliefy type guy who supposedly is like left hanging upside down, totally blue, but knows things he shouldn't know, which we get. I mean, it's like painfully obvious. And it's like, well, okay, this seems really convenient and obvious. I really don't think that's the angle that would make the most sense. I wouldn't be let down if it was, though, which I think is kind of interesting, because I'd love to see, Manny Jacinto, like, I'd love to see that character become more than what it is. I kind of feel like it's not going to, because that seems too easy, too convenient. I wouldn't be upset, but it does feel too easy. The next possibility, of course, is this is the Mother Witch, who has either somehow resurrected or wasn't dead to begin with, or all the witches combined into some like celestial witch body who's this completely new character that becomes a pseudo-Sith. There's also the possibility, and I have not seen anybody talk about this, so this could be, fans, breaking Star Wars news.
Right here.
You're going to hear it here first, as predicted by UrzaMaster. I really do think this could be like a Darth Plagueis apprentice. I think this could be a Sith operating in the background who's using this in with these witches, with this whole situation as like, this is our time to strike. Because it would be directly parallel to finally we reveal ourselves to the Jedi. Because the Jedi are so high and mighty, they would never believe there's a Sith. There hasn't been a Sith for generations. Here you go. I also think this would be the perfect opportunity for a character like Palpatine and Plagueis, who are trying to study the ways of the dark side, or the dark forces of the thread, or however you want to look at it. The witches clearly have an ability they want, which is to cheat death or create life. Both go hand in hand. This would be their opportunity to not only strike out against the Jedi and carve out their niche, but attract other Force users who don't like the Jedi and make themselves known and create allies that they may not even know they're creating, or they may not even know they're being attracted to this Force. him here being one of them, where he's like, he knows things he shouldn't know because he's just a totally deceptive person. He could easily be a former agent of the Hutts. What more perfect way to tie it together? Be like, oh, okay, that's just a BS story. No, that's actually his real story. He just knows all these things, and he knows not to let anybody else know that he knows these things. And that, to me, I feel like people would be like, I doubt they would go that direction, but it's like, that's why I think that would be great. I really think it would be so good to, like, they're taking us all on this whole linear journey where it's like, okay, this is going to play out with these characters, blah, 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 blah. This is the perfect time to inject a complete swerve. Like, I don't think there are many people expecting this to be some Sith that is laying the foundation for the Sith we see later in the franchise. What more perfect way to lay it out? Because we know May and Osha, they don't exist in the Star Wars canon. So at some point, you have to kill them off. There has to be a conclusion that's final. What better way to set that up is they're sort of these fringe Force users that are kind of anti-Jedi, not really Jedi, but have Force powers. The Sith are really trying to solidify their power with all these fringe Force users that are out there. They're going to drive some of them away from their agenda to the Jedi. Here's that segment. So if they interject now because they've failed in getting them to turn towards the dark side, so now they're like, well, if you want to do something right, you got to do it yourself. And all of a sudden, like, these witches are getting driven to the Jedi. They're eventually going to get killed off. You could kill them in the last episode. And it's like, you've killed the Acolyte because that was a failed Sith plot. I think that would be freaking fantastic. Don't get me wrong, like, I'm loving everything I'm getting. But I feel like that's the one story nobody's thought of or talked about that seems so, like, disjointed from what they've been doing. It's like, there's no way they would do that. That's what they should do. That is always what you should do. 100%. It's like, there's no way this whole space station is being taken over by furballs. We're doing it. We're doing it.
So I got a couple. So it almost makes it sound like you're saying we're going to see Grey Jedi. But doesn't that totally ruin the new set of sequels that are coming out? Because isn't Rey supposed to be the beginning of the Grey Jedi?
Well, I think, if
or
you're
like
thinking of this from the thread perspective, I think the Grey Jedi were always there. I think Luke is a Grey Jedi. I think we get bits and pieces of that in the new sequel trilogy. You know, because the whole reason why his whole Force Academy, Jedi Academy falls apart is he has a moment where he's just like, I'm going to kill this dude. Which is not a Jedi thing to do. He was going to strike first. That is definitely not Jedi. And I don't think you would say that Ben Solo was on the Jedi path either. He was always tempted by the dark side, and he didn't end up there. So I think if you're thinking of it from the perspective of these are the light side and dark side are doing this yin-yang tit-for-tat even centuries ago. The whole time they're spinning off fragments that'll eventually coalesce into what becomes your Grey Jedi. And
so then
you gotta
Anakin
set
was
up
really
the witches as like a foil in there too.
so Anakin was really the first Grey Jedi.
Was he?
Well, he's at the end. He's all
Or was he just the first best pod racer?
man, because this is pod racing. All right, well, just think about we need to think. I got to think about that one some more, because. All right, so here's my next question. Maybe I'm supposed to be addressing things right now. I don't know. I'm gonna ask questions instead. So are all Sith users wearing masks? Has that ever been established?
We learned this in the movie The Mask, 1995.
It's a great movie.
Jim Carrey.
Yes. Has it been established in Star Wars canon that Siths wear masks, or is it just some Siths do and some Siths don't?
Easy for you to say. Well, I mean,
I don't
That's
know.
right.
Maul Maul never really wore a mask.
Yeah, he wore a cowl, but he never really, masked up.
I mean, you could probably count that if we're
But if you
really
look at
reaching
some of
for
those,
straws.
and I didn't play the Old Republic games, but wasn't there another Jedi that had like he almost was
Darth
like
Revan?
Bane? Yeah, something like that. So, and the reason, I mean, I know obviously why they're putting this guy in a mask. It's so that way we don't know who it is, right? I mean,
We don't know it's a guy. Could be a voice filter.
Oh, true. I do.
I've been
I
waiting a
go
long time for this, Han Solo. Oh, Batman. Oh.
another awful movie. It was the third
It's
Batman
a
movie.
great movie.
That's a whole. Oh my gosh! How
Bane
can you
was so
say
good.
You merely
Anyway.
adopted the darkness. I was born in it, molded by it. Oh, that's some more crap, Batman.
Anyway, so where was I going with that? Oh, I just like to rip on movies. Well, that's the first thing. The second thing is, and if you don't agree with me, too bad. No, I'm just kidding. It's a UrzaMaster joke. So yeah, I agree. I'm going to go more along the lines of. You're right. The guy that's leading May around. I'm sorry. I'm drawing
Mark.
a blank on his name right now.
Manny.
Manny Keymark.
That guy. Yeah. I think he's the apprentice to the Sith personally, but I feel like he's almost trying to turn May, or was trying to turn May almost into his apprentice. That was kind of the feeling I was getting in a sense. And then obviously, right, I almost felt like he couldn't believe it when she was saying, hey, I'm going to go give up. And that felt kind of quick too, by the way, where she's like, oh, I give up now. So I struggle a little bit with that. But I think that's so. Here's what I'm struggling with. Obviously, besides speaking tonight, I'm struggling with other things too. I don't know if I want this to be a Palpatine story, because I feel like it could go there, right? And this is playing to what UrzaMaster is saying. That's the good thing about it right now. There are a lot of people that are totally railing this series because that's the easy thing to do, in my opinion, is to rail the series right now for multiple reasons. But they're not giving it a chance to play out. And if they would get past all the stuff on the surface, which I think a lot of people are just conveniently making up their own private issues or personal issues with it, right? So that's automatically going to pull it down for them in a sense. I think it's been some pretty good writing, because we're at the end of the fourth episode, and we still don't know what's going on, right? You still don't. So I think there's a lot to be said for that if you dive deeper into it and you go beyond the surface level. I don't like this because of blah, 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 America. Like, if you get past that and you look at the writing, you really don't know where it's going. And that's
Which
why I'm
is hard to do. In today's world of spoilers and dirt sheets and, people who give out secrets and details who are on the cast and crew, like, that alone, regardless of what you think of what's gone on in the first 4 episodes, whether you think it's great, mediocre, or bad, you have to give them props, because we legitimately don't know. Now, if we find out that it's, Kimir, who is the Dark Lord of the Sith here, all right, like, I'm going to be a little, I'll be honest, I'll be a little disappointed. I'll be happy because I love that actor. I think he's fantastic, and I think that character change, that development would be great, but I wonder what you do with that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because would he die at the end of the series, or now all of a sudden there's a Sith out there that we never really knew about before? Yeah.
And what do you do with it from there? What ends at the end of the Acolyte, or what begins?
Well, you don't really need the Force. Let's say it was Keymark. You don't really need the Force Switch storyline if it's just going to be, he's got dark intentions, and he's going to, use this girl who, appeared, however they cross paths, he can use her to exert his own vengeance. I guess what I'm saying is, it's not so much for me the who anymore, it's the why. And I think the why is very tantalizing. And I mean, in terms of what does this all have to do? Because I think it does have to do with these Force witches. I mean, that's going to play a factor, like we said. Is it Mother Coral? Is it Mother Anastasia? Like you say, did they survive that terrible night on Brendock, jointly, or one of them? Are they the ones sort of, manipulating the strings? So that's, to me, that's what I'm anxious to discover. Not so anxious that I'll get mad at every episode that doesn't reveal it. As long as I know that they're going to continue to play fair and not do, something that just wholeheartedly, just collapses upon its own weight. To your thing about May, quote, giving up early, I just don't think her heart was in it. And I want to go back and watch the episode again, because there's a moment or two that she reacts to Kimar. Like she gives him a stare down. There's some sort of, and I didn't quite on first viewing catch all of those undercurrents, but I think especially after, and I think she references seeing Osha, I mean, basically her sister, try to shoot her. I think she's just kind of, maybe this isn't, especially, she's like, I don't know who this guy is. He gives me these impossible tasks. He's not really testing me, I think she's just kind of like losing that there. I agree with you that I would have liked to have, maybe see that play out with even more of a confrontation per se. I mean, she traps him. She pulls the classic Ewok move and traps him with the rope. But like I say, I think there might be something there, again, scratching that surface. And I have to say, gentlemen, with each episode, I am falling more and more swooning for Jedi Master Saul taking down that whatever the heck that was eating the tree bark. Just when he unclipped his lightsaber in episode 3 to let Osha handle it, like he did, with his gloved hands. He's the only Jedi wearing like black, gloves, like a serial killer. But like his body language, and he owns every scene he's in. And the more and more I see him, the more I see durable, brave, like whatever went bad on Brendock, and he does feel bad for it. I don't think Saul, I think he was the least of the problems. And don't forget, Torben retreated using the Barash vow from all of society, basically, just became one with the Force. And Kaunaka's living off on this planet where basically, you might RV it for a night or two, but it's no place you'd want to make a living. Like, he doesn't want to be around anybody either. I think if you look back at Indara, she was on, I won't call it a backwater world, but she wasn't in the cosmopolitan Jedi Council. She was sitting there at a table when she was approached by May, and it almost looked like they all knew each other, like they were regulars. So 3 of the 4 Jedi on Brendock have kind of withdrawn. Only Saul is, leading classes, teaching younglings, taking on Padawans. So that's interesting to me. Like, he's still very much plugged in, going to council meetings with Venestra and Ki-Adi-Mundi. So he's still very much like in the teacher's lounge with the others. And the others either have moved on or don't really want anybody else. So that's, again, when we're talking about what happened on Brendock, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. And that's, and like Lord Uther said, it's very easy to shit on this show. Like, it's super early, kind of like Book of Boba Fett. You kind of got to let it play out till the end before you can judge what's going on. And it's exactly this, is that we really have no idea what happened in the past. I am going to throw out a possibility here. What if, in the course of everything else that was going on, the May Osha thing aside, the Force Witch aside, the 4 Jedi were there for some unknown reason. They really don't know. They said they were there because they thought they were training children. It would make way more sense that they were actually sent there because there was a suspected Force user there of the dark side. Like, they felt a disturbance in the Force. There could be a Sith Lord there. And they're like, nah, there's no way. And they're all scooting around town. and they happen upon this coven. But then in the midst of finding this out, turns out that dark force user, that Sith Lord, was actually there also to find these children because they're strong with the dark side of the force, and they wanted them, instead of testing them to become Jedi, maybe making them into Sith apprentices. And maybe that's how May falls in with this dark Jedi, and that would make perfect sense. And the whole reason there was any kind of a massacre is this dark Jedi came in, killed all these witches, made it look like the Jedi did it, and that's why the fire started, made it look this, that, or the other.
Right.
And then boom, again, we're back to a Darth Plagueis or a similar Sith Lord version. And remember, Palpatine is all of the Sith, so any Sith that may be just a new, totally new canonical Sith is technically still Palpatine. So yeah, I don't care for that either, Lord Uther. I feel that in my soul as well, but I could see that being the case. It would kind of tie things up. It would also make sense why Soul was like, I'll explain everything once we get you and your sister together. You know, there's clearly more that he knows that he's not letting on. Not to mention the fact, you know, lest we forget that Kimir didn't know Soul's name, or shouldn't have, but he knew it when he talked to May when he got there, and that's what clued May in. She gave him that look like,
That's right.
you
Yes.
shouldn't know that. And so that's where it's like, okay, Kimir could very well be this Dark Lord of the Sith. Again, I'm not upset by it. But it could also be that, you know, as Palpatine had, he may have more than one apprentice. He might have May, knowing she's going to betray him. Kimir, who's knowing he's going to be loyal to a fault and probably be dumb and plucky throughout. That would play pretty well. I would find that pretty compelling writing. But either way, again, I fall back to we really don't know, and it is pretty open, and that's so hard to do in television. I mean, it's just so hard to do. Most stuff is super predictable. And, I mean, hats off to the writing staff because I really don't know what's going to happen next. Which, I want to draw a parallel real quick to our other show here on Pending Rebrand, the Warp Core podcast, where we know where Strange New Worlds is going. No matter what they do from episode 1 until the end of the series, we know what happens to Captain Pike. And they still make it compelling. We know what eventually happens in the Star Wars universe, right? But we have no idea what's going to happen in the in-between, even though it should be cyclical and predictable, as the Ahsoka series has pointed out. And that, I'll take a sip of coffee to that.
Nice.
Gentlemen, if I may be so bold, I think here for episode 4, it's time to bestow our lightsaber Kyber Crystal Color ratings. I'd love to start with Lord Uther because he's got that blue hue behind him. Lord Uther, how do you feel about this episode?
Well, definitely. I mean, I even have the Italia shirt on with the blue and the blue hue behind me that's radiating. I'm going blue. Even though I'm saying that everyone should give it a chance, it's because I'm still in give it a chance mode myself. A couple, again, I felt like the turn was a little too quick. I feel like I also wanted to see, I'm going to say the Wookiee's name wrong, Krennic. Did I say it right? Kalneka. I wanted to see him fight, and I didn't, but I have a feeling I'm going to see it in a flashback, which is still going to be okay. And then I read an article that said the director did have a fight that was put together, but felt like it wasn't, the pacing did not match with the episode, so they didn't actually have a lightsaber duel in the episode like they'd originally had planned. So that was kind of interesting too. I want to see that. I think everyone wants to see a Wookiee Jedi fighting, so hopefully we will see that at some point. Well, at least I want to see it, so if I want to see it, that means everyone wants to see it. So I just wanted to throw that in there too. So yeah, I'm going to go blue, and let's see what happens. I do like how it ended with, and I thought it was pretty overpowering that just one move and 4 or 5 Jedi go flying, which again plays into the idea too that the Jedi are underestimating this entire situation, which I feel like I saw in Phantom Menace, but again, giving it a try. because I learned from my mistakes, my Boba Fett mistake. I learned. UrzaMaster, what are your thoughts?
Well, I actually brought a prop this time,
Yay.
and it's a little bit probably between, I assume, Lord Uther and Jedi Master Psyllium Maas, and that is and I'm going to give you a date stamp here. It is circa, no idea, but it is a blue-green Netgear Network Interface card blue. And I give that a half and half, because for most of this episode I felt very blue. It was very much, okay, they're moving stuff along, they're putting pieces in place, and then 10 minutes-ish to go, I think it was from the line of, what's that Jedi Master's name again? Soul? That moment triggered me, and I'm like, oh, he shouldn't know that. Okay. And then from there it got exciting. I was also disappointed there was no Wookiee fight. Again, I'm sure we'll see it in a flashback, and we'll probably see more Carrie-Anne Moss, which I'm pining for. But I was so excited. The horror when that Sith Lord descends, and then that red lightsaber appears, and everybody's just like, and then whoosh, end of the episode right there. I'm like, oh. I like it. I'll also say I had my 3 kids watching the episode with me, and they loved it. They thought it was cool. My daughter is convinced that the Sith Lord is Darth Vader, or maybe she said Dark Vader, as little kids are wont to say. And I had to explain that just because he has a red lightsaber does not make him Darth Vader. And we'll close it with Jedi Master Psyllium Maas.
Well, gentlemen, I spent recently some time in the frontier world of Batuu at the Black Spire Outpost. And while I don't have a traditional lightsaber color, I believe that this episode is worthy of this pendant of the Millennium Falcon from the Black Spire Outpost. And it comes also with the outpost itself here on the rear. So this is a burnished alloy, much like the kind you'd find in a lightsaber handle, which, as you're rooting for your favorite Jedi or Sith, comes in a variety. I would also like to remind everybody that there are Star Wars Oreo cookies out there in the universe. And if you want to see where your life's decisions and judgments have led you, then by all means pick up a bag or a package and see if you drew the blue Will of the Force or the dark red lure of the dark side. I'm happy to report that me and my significant other are blue. I'm also sad to report that both my father and my brother, who live together in Oklahoma, somehow pulled a red. So their entire lives will now be devoted to the pursuit of evil, and that means no more Christmases together. But that's okay. We're fine with that. Like I said, guys, I am looking. I want longer episodes. 36 minutes is not enough. Give me something in the low 40s. Give me more meat to chew. And I think we might see a ferocious battle here, like out of place when you would think. I think we might see a battle that you'd expect in episode 7, 8, or 9, like right now. Like in episode 5, this could be real Titanic. We could see casualties. I expect the first 5 minutes of next week's to really be a barn burner. So make sure you've got your popcorn and your beverages handy.
Hold on. Let's do a quick prediction.
Okay.
Ready?
Go.
Are we going to see Palpatine in this series? Psyllium Maas, yes or no? I don't want nothing else. Are we going to see Palpatine, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, that's it. UrzaMaster, yes or no? Are we going to see Palpatine?
Yes.
Oh, boy. I want to say no now just because both of you said yes. But I'm going to say yes. I believe so as well. All right. On that note.
With that, we are closing in on 1,500 subscribers here at Pending Rebrand. We're very close. So if you are looking for that coveted spot of sub 1,500, now is your chance to click that subscribe button, hit that bell notification icon so you keep up to date with all of the Graying Jedi podcasts, all of our fun shorts, the Warp Core podcast, and other shows. Drop us a comment. Let us know. Do you think we're going to see Palpatine? How did you feel about this episode? Do you think Jedi Master Psyllium Maas should take his shirt off? The answer is yes. Until the next time we see you in the galaxy far, far away, may the Force be with you. Always.
Always.